Hello, and welcome to the first week of new material in U.S. history. Glad to see you again. What we're going to do today is take a look at our first forum, and I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about the discourse of history, or the way in which historians talk to one another about the past. So as you can probably see, I'm looking here at our first timeline session for Chapter 1, A New World. And when you click on that session here to open it up, you click the plus arrow, and you'll see this description here. Okay, so friendly reminder, all assignments completed by Tuesday, and here I've cut and pasted for you an overview of what we're doing this week. Okay, so scrolling down into the session coursework, you'll see our Introductions Forum, which most of you have already posted in, and go ahead and read the replies if you haven't already. Questions, Q&A of any type for the class, go there. Here you can see the material we'll use to learn about this week's topic and to use in combination with your textbook. Some of these materials I think you personally may find more useful than others, so go ahead and check them out and see what speaks to you. And then finally, down here at the bottom, we've got our two required materials for the week, the forum and the first quiz. All right, so let's go into the forum, open it up, and let's take a look. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to see are two images, right? Jump right to your attention. These are what we call in history primary sources. So the study of the past cannot be conducted in the same way we might do a scientific experiment. And by that I mean we don't start with a hypothesis and then look to create evidence that either supports or denies that hypothesis. Instead, we start with the evidence. We ask questions of it, we examine it, we compare it, we look for patterns, and then we arrive at a hypothesis or a general interpretation or argument about the past and that period under consideration. So what we're going to do in this first forum is start working with primary sources. So primary sources can be any piece of evidence from or about the past, okay? Now, going back to that metaphor of a scientific experiment, one thing that we have to work with in history is that we do not have the ability to record or find a record of anything we're interested in. So again, unlike that experiment, if it doesn't work, we didn't get the info we were looking for, we can't go back and ask someone to record it for us. So that's something that I actually think makes history really exciting and compelling. You know, we have to work with what we've got, and we've got to figure out how to get around it and ask questions maybe in different ways or find answers by looking underneath a rock or looking at something from a different perspective. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at today, thinking about perspective. So your first set of primary sources, again, I've selected here, in addition to, okay, the document, so I'm pointing out here in your document reader, the small text, Voices of Freedom. Number 1, Adam Smith, and number 3, Bartolomé de las Casas on Spanish treatment of the Indians. All right, so all 4 of these sources should play a role in your answer. In other words, before you go to post into the forum, look at all 4 of these sources and consider, okay, what they all have to say about this question here you see in blue. Okay, so keep this question in mind. How should we characterize the beginnings of European settlement in the Americas? As a discovery or as a catastrophe? Okay, so starting with this bottom image, taking a look at it, right, we can see from this engraving We see the Spanish here represented, right, as the bringers of Christianity, dominated by this big cross here. And we can see also the reaction of the native people and the activities that the Spanish are engaging in as a result of this colonizing or Christianizing mission. Okay? So take a minute to look at this and think about how this represents the Spanish and their contact, their initial contact with this group of native people. Okay, so scrolling back up here. Now look at this image, okay, by a very famous European named Theodore de Bry. Interestingly, he was responsible for creating a number of images of the New World, despite the fact that he never came here himself. So all of his images were based on reports and stories that he heard or read about. So let's consider the effect that that might have had on the image we're looking at here. So again, we see the Spanish, but they look quite different, don't they? Here we see them represented as conquistadors, as powerful conquerors, dressed right in heavy military gear, wielding their weapons against the defenseless, in this case Incas, of Cusco, Peru. So consider, right, what the Spanish are doing here and what this tells us about that interaction between the native peoples, in this case the Incas, and the Spanish. Okay, so after reading these two documents as well and considering the reasons for and the results of colonization, okay, and the way in which the Spanish interacted with the Indians according to De las Casas, a friar who witnessed the activities of the Spanish in Mexico, return to the forum, okay, to the question and begin posting. Okay, so note I've given you some advice here. Okay, there's no right answer, better and worse answers. And again, better answers provide evidence of what they're arguing. So you're going to want to cite these images or the or the documents that I asked you to consider. Okay, think not about what you think you might have heard somewhere or your own impressions. Think about what the sources are telling you. Let the sources speak. I'm interested to hear what they have to say.